Today we're going to take the next step with our study of percent and decimals, and we're going to look at the percent proportion, and you're going to see how you can use your knowledge of proportions from earlier this year to solve problems involving percent. So this is the percent proportion. It is written as A over W equals P over 100, where A represents the part, W represents the whole, and P represents the percent. 100 is the constant because that is what percents are compared to. Now, we talked about how you're not going to be given all three pieces of information. With today's work, you're going to be given 2 out of the 3 and asked to solve for the third. The percent is the easy one to place in the percent proportion, but students often mix up part and whole. So we talked about this magic word of, and this is what you're searching for. When you see of and then a number after it, that is always representative of the whole number in the percent proportion. So here's the example that we looked at to get started, and your work today is always going to be given to you in the form of a question. So what percent of 15 is 12? And so you start with the percent proportion, and we look for a magic word of, and I see 15 after that. So that represents the whole. I'm looking for the percent, so that's where the P goes, and I know that 12 has to go here and not at the percent, because if 12 was the percent symbol would be after it. So we cross multiply, or you use arrows and divide, and you get a percent of 80%. Be sure to put the percent symbol on the end for a percent problem. We did this one together. What percent of 5 is 3? So we started with our percent proportion and found the word of. 5 represents the whole. 3 then is the part, because if it was the percent, it had the percent symbol after it. So I'm searching for percent. Cross multiply or use the arrows, and you get a percent of 60%. You did this one on your own, and I put this one in here strategically because a lot of you think that it's always the smaller number over the larger number when you do part and whole. That isn't the case. You have to pay attention to the language and look for that word of. In this case, 20, the smaller number, ends up on the bottom as the denominator representing the whole. And when you solve for this, you get a percent of 125%. So we're not always searching for percent. We can also search for a part, a missing part. So what number is 36% of 50? So again, you're setting up with the same proportion of 50, so 50 is the whole. Now though, we have a percent, 36%. So we're going to plug that in over here where we had previously been writing the letter P for percent. And now we're solving for A. So it's an arrow or cross multiply, and you get an answer of 18. Don't put percent on the end because 18, it doesn't represent the percent in this problem. 36 does that job. 18 is just the part or a number. So you did this one on your own, and at first we had some trouble because some of you were still trying to put 80 over on this side. 80 is the percent, so it goes where percent goes. We're searching for the part. We're not always solving for P. When you solve for this one, you get A is 48. And this one got some of you at first because you saw the decimal. Treat it just like any other number. Decimals are numbers too. Put it in where it fits and use the arrow or cross multiplying and a calculator to solve. And you get the part in this problem is 4 5/100. And finally, we can be searching for the whole and not the part or the percent. And the process is identical. 150% of what number is 24? This time when you see of, you don't see a number, you see the word what. So that tells you right away that's what you're searching for. And 24 is the part because the percent has the percent on the end. You cross multiply and you get the whole of 16. You solve this one. Gets funny because a lot of you didn't trust the answer should be 4,000 when you were working on your own. But if you put the numbers in where they go and you solve the way you've been solving all the other ones, you have to trust your work and trust your answer. That 0.1% of 4,000 is 4. And this one we talked about, just because it says half, you can find another way to write the number half so that it fits nicely into the percent proportion, so you can do the cross multiplying and solving to get the whole of 2. And finally, we can put this into the real world application. It's not always just this number sentence that's given to you or question. So the bar graph shows the strengths of tornadoes that occurred. Here's your question. What percent of the tornadoes were EF1s? So you start the proportion with 100 of, well, it says of the tornadoes. So the tornadoes as a group represents the whole. So to get 145, you have to add up all of the tornadoes. were EF1s. EF1s are the part, and we have a number for that, 58. And it's asking for the percent. So that's what you're solving for. And you do the cross multiplying, and you get that 40% of the tornadoes in 2011 were in the category EF1. And then you worked on this one. 20% of the tornadoes occurred in central Alabama on April 27th. So how many tornadoes does that represent? So it's the same proportion, 20% per percent of the tornadoes. So the group of tornadoes is the whole again, which means we're solving for the part that occurred on April 27th. And you get that 29 tornadoes occurred on that one day. So that's a quick glimpse at the percent proportion.